part 3 of my build log series of this 1:350 scale model of Mauretania. Now, in this video, I am removing all the unwanted plastic from my hull. In some instances, this is things like bits of railing that are cast into the plastic, and I'm removing them because I think this will look a lot better with photo etch railings. So we've got a big old stint along there, a bit at the bow as well. In other instances, I'm removing bits of the framework from the injection moulding process. So just, getting rid of those which will allow the hull to clip together nicely. And in a few locations as well, I am cutting bits of plastic off to make this look more like Mauretania and less like Lusitania. So that's the plan for today. Now then, in other news, I've got another piece of aftermarket detail kit. This is a printed and laser cut wooden deck, which is designed specifically to fit on this model, so it should fit like an absolute glove. Now, this is made by Scaledecks, same company that I used for the wooden deck on my Titanic model, and they are exceptionally high quality. I'll do a close-up in a second, but the quality of the printing and how well these decks fit is just remarkable. It really is. So they really do enhance the look of your model. Unfortunately, for this particular bit, Scaledecks just didn't ship to the UK. They ship other things to the UK, but they didn't ship this one. So I'd mentioned that in a previous video, and I was very, very touched that about 5 people got in touch with me and said, Robbie, I can buy it and send it on to you if you want. And the first person to do that was a man called Calvin. So Calvin bought this and shipped it over to me in the UK. So I just wanted to say, on the video, thank you very much for that. It's really appreciated. Without your help and without the other people who volunteered, I wouldn't have been able to get this, and the model just wouldn't be as good by comparison. So it's really, really appreciated. Thank you. So here you go. Here's the Scaledecks product. As you can see, bow section, bridge sections, other decking sections which I'm not aware of yet, stern section. But what I really like about these is it's the variation in the planking. I'll zoom in now, although not that much. It's the variation in the planking. Each of the planks is individual with a subtly different colour. The lengths aren't consistent, so it adds that sort of random effect that you would get on a ship when you had decking installed. Decking wouldn't have been installed absolutely symmetrically, and wood's a natural product, so it is going to have variation in colour, particularly pine, which is very sappy wood. So you're going to get sappier pine, you're going to get wood with knots in it, you're going to get wood from the centre of the tree, which is slightly darker than wood from the outside of the tree. All of this stuff adds up to making a deck which doesn't quite have a consistent colour. And that's exactly what Scaledecks masters, and it ends up just looking so good. And on a model of this size, I'll show you the scale of the model for comparison. Here is the model. So that's my hand next to it. It's not huge by any means, but it's quite a big model. And I think on a model this size, having a deck like that, which takes up quite a lot of the surface area of the model, having a deck which is this higher quality just really adds value. It really does. So it's well worth having. And once again, thank you very much, Calvin. One of the first things I'm going to do is to cut off any surplus plastic that I don't want. For example, these railings, which I'm going to replace with higher quality photo etch. So I've just been going along the model, marking with a pen the bits that need to be cut off. And this essentially just sort of, hopefully, idiot-proofs it a little bit, because, when you're in the middle of a job, sometimes you can sort of cut something off which you don't mean to, and then of course you end up kicking yourself later. It's worth avoiding those things if you can at all. So I've gone along and just marked all the little nubs of plastic that I don't want. One area that I am going to be a bit careful about is this forecastle section here, because Lusitania, as we can see from photos and also as we can see from the box art, had a very short sort of peak on her bow, which is of course replicated in this plastic as it's a model of Lusitania. Mauretania, on the other hand, had a far longer section. It actually went up to about the 5th porthole. So I need to replicate that. And so in this instance, this plastic, which I would otherwise be cutting off, is actually quite useful because it provides a nice rigid backdrop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off these railings up to the point where the breakwater would have been. And then once this is all nicely sanded down and so on, I'll go along with some filler or something and just fill up, cover the railings over and improve the look no end. I'm also going to remove this little railing section at the front. This is meant to be a sort of section, I guess it's where forward anchors were stowed and so on. I'm yet to find pictures of the area, but I'm guessing that's what it would be because there's an anchor crane there. But again, it's rendered in plastic here, and I think we can do better with photo etch, so that's going to go as well. So we'll start off by marking up and then removing this plastic. I'm starting off with crude cutting technique, obviously not getting too close to the actual deck that I'm wanting to preserve, but close enough that I can save myself quite a lot of time. Lovely. Plastic flying everywhere. Just what you want. Just what the vacuum cleaner likes. Now this stuff, got to be very careful because you don't want to cause any bending moments on anything else. And I shall stop there. As you're probably noticing, this plastic is cracking rather than bending. Now that's often a symptom of age in plastic. Plastics tend to sort of lose their vitality a bit as they get older. And although this is a new model, to me it is not a new model as in out of the factory new. So it does stand to reason that the plastic is far more likely to be brittle rather than fresh and new, so something just to bear in mind. And now the sanding which just needs to be nice and slow. I've got a microfile here, which are really good. And that just needs to be nice and slow to get us down to the actual deck. So I'll do this in sped up time, I think. Right, here you go. Here's the first of the sides. This is the port side, and as you can see, I've carved it down, but I have left a section to mirror that much more significant strut on the front of the bow. Need to cut some holes in there, but that is so far so good. Now I just need to clean up the very bow, the very prow of the ship. And then we can move on. So I thought I'd just go over a couple of little things here. You'll notice that I am using files almost exclusively for this job. And that's because I just don't want to mess it up, really. Now, quite often, when I've been filing away these sort of nubs on the superstructure of the model, it's quite difficult to see exactly when you've got to the right level, because they tend to be they sort of stick out, whereas the cast part of the plastic has a slightly chamfered edge. So you can often, your eye is almost quite deceptive, like there, you can see this point sticking out a bit more, but then actually if you tilt the model so it's facing you, it's actually pretty much bang on level. And that can be quite deceptive, and you can end up going a bit further than you mean if you're not careful. So what I tend to do is use my finger along the top surface, because your finger is incredibly good at detecting an uneven surface. If you try it on anything like a piece of wood or your hands, your finger is exceedingly good at detecting when there's unevenness in the surface. It's a very good way of working out if you've actually got the thing flat or not. Now for this bit here, this is a sort of curved piece of metal work, and so I'm going in there with a sort of oblong shaped, I don't mean oblong, do I? I mean oval shaped file, and I'm going in very slowly, and I'm using my other finger to sort of stop it going too far. Nearly there. That's about it, I think. This is just one of those jobs where you have to be really very patient. There we go. You'll also notice that you get a backup of plastic on the other side, which comes off very easily with a sharp blade. But again, that's worth keeping an eye on, because if you're not quite paying attention closely enough, you can misconstrue that for plastic you're trying to sand. And again, you can go far too far before you realise. Anyway, we'll move back into time-lapse now, and I will carry on getting rid of the railings along the stern section here. Now, I'm about to go along with my clippers and cut off this section of railing here up to the point that we have the forecastle cover. You'll notice I've already cut where the railings separate from the deck structure here. And the reason for that is because, as I've said already, this plastic is quite old and therefore quite brittle, and I didn't want to risk cutting and for a crack to propagate along into the section of model that I want to keep. But now that I've cut this section away here, I feel much more comfortable in going along and cutting sections off. Right, so as you can see, these have now been cut back. Got rid of those railings, except in the areas where we want to keep them to make the model more like Mauretania. There's a few other bits to cut back which will come later. For example, this sort of cover needs to be cut off. We had some railing sections up here which have been removed as well. And then transitioning to the stern, same again. Cut off, and more importantly, nice and level and consistent the whole way along, which is just what we want. Same on the other side. All the way. So sure enough, I haven't glued this yet, but we have the hull. As you can see, we've got those two prows nicely lined up along the length, and sure enough at the stern as well. All well and good. So far, so good. So there you go, we have at last started to make some modelling progress on Mauretania. It's taken a while to get to this point, but as you can probably tell from the window behind me, it's 5 o'clock here and it's getting pretty dark outside. It's pretty cold outside, which means we're moving into the winter, or at least the autumn in the UK, and that's the perfect couple of seasons for modelling, when there's not much else to do other than stay inside or go to the pub. So I'll probably start making a wee bit more progress on this model in the coming days and weeks now. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for putting up with my delays. If you've got any questions, comments, what have you, pop them down below and I'll do my absolute best to get back to you. If you've enjoyed the video, please do like and or subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.